Fire Year Zero. Part 1. The last normal day. They say the sky turned red before it all began. But I don't remember the sky. I remember the silence. I was in Mendoza that morning, a sleepy, stubborn city cradled at the foot of the Andes, known more for its wine than its warnings. People there live like the mountains are eternal, unshakable. Dead things don't move. They were wrong. I was a climatologist once, not one of the doomsday types. I studied glacial recession, atmospheric microchanges, boring things, really. But on April 12th, I became a witness. Not a scientist. A survivor. No, not even that. I became a record. Let me tell you how the world ended. Slowly, then all at once. It started the way most apocalypses do, quietly. The animals knew first. They always do. A week before the main eruption, we lost the dogs in our research station. Just gone. No tracks, no signs of a struggle. The goats followed. Then the birds stopped singing. By the time the earth trembled, we were already on borrowed time. Our station, a two-story prefab buried into a ridge, was located 70 kilometers south of Cerro Blanco, one of the oldest and supposedly dormant calderas in South America. Dormant is a funny word. It implies something is just sleeping. But this wasn't sleep. It was a build-up. The first tremor hit at 2:17 a.m. Weak, like someone slamming a door in the basement. Then came the sulfur. Faint at first, like someone lit a match and let it smolder under your nose. By the afternoon, the sky was wrong. That's the only way I can describe it. It wasn't red, not yet. It was thick, muted, like the sun had grown shy behind a film of ash. My partner, Elena, checked the seismic data again and again. The readouts were jagged. It's not just Blanco, she said, frowning. It's everything. That night, the last satellite call we received came from a paleobiologist named Hannes, stationed in Yellowstone. His voice cracked through static. It's coordinated. Listen to me. This is not a chain reaction. It's a sequence. Like a code. Then the signal died. And so did the stars. Day zero came without warning. Elena was brushing her teeth when the mountains opened up. I don't mean metaphorically. I mean literally. The ridge buckled like paper. The air exploded inwards. Then, silence again. But this silence didn't feel natural. It felt watched. We ran. No radio. No GPS. Just survival. Ash felt like black snow. I remember the taste of it. Metallic, burnt, strange. My lungs ached with each breath. Visibility dropped to 10 meters. And then, like ghosts, we saw them. People. Or what was left of them. One man had half his skin blistered off, still standing, muttering something about music in the ground. Another, a child, kept pointing at the sky, even though it was pitch black. We reached a cave system 2 days later. The ash followed us even there. Elena was coughing blood. I tried to keep her awake. She kept repeating something Hannes said. It's a signal. It's been counting down for years. I didn't understand. Still don't. But something about it stuck. Like a riddle your brain refuses to forget. On the 7th night, I heard the voice. It wasn't human. It wasn't alien either. It was like remembering a dream someone else had. No mouth. No sound. Just a pressure. Like being inside a thought that wasn't yours. It said one word. Begin. That's when I realized the eruption wasn't a disaster. It was a reset. Weeks passed. Maybe months. Time lost all meaning. Elena died in her sleep. Or maybe she didn't. Maybe she just vanished. I woke up and her side of the cave was full of melted rock. Like something burned a hole through reality. I stayed. Ate what I could. Recorded notes in the dark. Waited for something, anything, to make sense. It never did. But on what I think was day 91, I saw the light. Not fire. Not sun. Not flare. A column. White. Straight. Descending from the clouds like a spear of silence. The ash parted for it. The earth stopped trembling. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel afraid. I felt summoned. I walked toward it. I don't remember the journey. Just flashes. A deer with 3 eyes. A highway turned into obsidian. A crater filled with perfectly folded clothes, no bodies. A voice in the static whispering, "We waited for them." But they never came. Who were they? Us? Them? I don't know. I reached the source on day 112. A monolith, blacker than ash, humming beneath the skin of the earth. Around it, silence. No wind, no time, and in front of it, a figure. Not alien, not human, something between. A presence wrapped in absence. It looked at me, or maybe through me, and then it asked the only question that ever mattered. What did you learn from the fire? I wanted to answer, but my mouth didn't work. Only my thoughts. So I told it everything. About the silence. About the signal. About the death of everything. And the fear of being the last memory of a broken species. The presence nodded. Then it left. No ship. No sound. No light. Just me. Standing in the ruins of the old world. And that's where I begin my recording. If someone ever hears this, know this wasn't a punishment. This was a correction. The fire wasn't random. It was surgical. And whatever they are, they've done this before. Many, many times. Part 2. The Descent. I once believed the end would come with sirens. Flashing lights. Chaos. Screams. But the truth is much quieter. The end came like a lullaby. Soft. Distant. Unavoidable. After the monolith vanished, I expected death. Not salvation. Not answers. But something worse took its place. Silence. Deeper than any ash cloud. Heavier than any grief. I walked for days. Maybe weeks. There was no more sun. No more stars. Just that permanent twilight, like the planet couldn't decide if it was dying or being born. The world wasn't burning anymore. It was settling. At some point, I crossed into what used to be Argentina. Border signs twisted like vines, half melted, unreadable. I followed roads that felt familiar, but had no name anymore. Concrete cracked, open like bone. Cities were tombs without bodies. Then I found a pit. Or maybe it found me. It wasn't a crater. It was too round for that. Too perfect. As if something had punched the earth from below. There were steps leading down. Hundreds of them. Old. Smooth. Like they'd been used before. I should have run. Instead, I descended. It took 6 hours. At the bottom, light. Not natural. Cold and white like hospital corridors. And silence. That same unnatural, watching silence I remembered from the cave. The tunnel stretched endlessly forward. Etched into the walls were markings, not letters, not symbols, more like scars. Familiar. Repeating. I couldn't read them, but something in me recognized them. That's when I started hearing voices. Not out loud, not with ears, but inside memory. First came Elena. Softly. Just her laugh. Nothing else. Then Hannes. His warning. It's not random. It's designed. It's following something older than time. I tried to shake it off. Kept walking. Kept recording. I think I recorded just to remind myself I was still me. At some point, the tunnel opened into a chamber. And that's where I found the others. There were 12 of them, standing in a circle, perfectly still, not breathing. Their eyes were open, but they weren't alive. Yet they weren't dead either. I approached one, a woman in a tattered lab coat, dirt crusted into her skin. I touched her hand. It was warm. And then she blinked. Slow, mechanical, and then said in my voice, "We failed them." I stumbled back. The others moved too, all in unison, like puppets on strings. Their mouths opened together, and they said it again. We failed them. I don't know who they were, or who we were, but something inside me cracked. I ran, back through the corridor, back up the impossible stairs. But the world wasn't the same. Above ground, it was quiet. Too quiet. The wind had stopped. Even the ash had settled into perfectly flat layers, like someone had pressed pause on entropy itself. And then I saw the light again. This time, in the sky. It wasn't a beam. It was a shape, a structure, floating, massive, impossible. It hovered over what used to be Santiago, or where Santiago should have been. From this distance, I could see it had no engines, no wings, no form my brain could fully grasp. just curves folding into geometry that should have broken the laws of space. And hanging beneath it, suspended by nothing, was a cage. Inside it, people, or things that looked like people. I moved closer, instinct pulling me. And that's when I saw her. Elena, alive, breathing, looking at me. But she didn't call out. She didn't wave. She just stared, expressionless. And behind her, something moved. Something tall, pale, thin. It looked at me without eyes. And I felt every atom in my body remember what real fear was. Not fear of death, fear of being known. I collapsed that night. Woke up in a bunker. Alone. The walls were white. The light was soft. And in the corner of the room, a speaker embedded in concrete. It crackled. And then the voice came again. That pressure inside my thoughts. Only this time it didn't ask. It instructed. Observe. Record. Remember. I tried to scream. Nothing came out. The door slid open. And there, waiting for me, was a hallway filled with mirrors. Each mirror showed a different version of me. Older, younger, dead, smiling, screaming, all of them broken. So here I am, writing, recording, whispering into an empty world that might not be mine anymore. The fire was never about destruction. It was about clearing the surface. Making room. For what? I think I'm starting to understand. They didn't come after the disaster. They were always here. They were beneath it. Part 3. Revelation. Time is strange here. I don't sleep the way I used to. I close my eyes, and hours dissolve into flashes, static memories that might not even be mine. I wake up sweating, whispering names I've never spoken before. I'm still in the bunker, still being watched, or studied. Sometimes I think it's the same thing. The voice hasn't returned, but the mirrors have changed. They no longer show versions of me. They show others. People I used to know. Some still alive. Some confirmed dead. Some I never met. And one of them, always one of them, stares directly at me, as if he knows I'm watching, as if he's waiting. Today, the door opened again. No instructions. No voice. Just that soft hiss of compressed air. And a corridor glowing with pale blue light. I stepped through and found myself back outside, or what looks like outside. Sky still dark, but above me, the floating structure had descended. No longer miles in the sky. Now, just above the ruins, hovering like a god's eye staring at its mistake. The cage beneath it was gone. In its place, a staircase. I climbed, not because I wanted to, because I had to. Each step felt heavier than the last, like walking through molasses. My thoughts were not entirely mine anymore. They echoed, double back on themselves. A voice in my head, not the voice, but something older, kept repeating, "It remembers you. It never forgets." At the top of the staircase, I found the chamber. Metal walls. Smooth. Seamless. No rivets. No seams. Just pure engineered perfection. In the center, a sphere, not glowing, not humming, just floating. It felt alive. When I stepped near it, it reacted. Images flooded my mind, not like visions, more like compressed thoughts. Packets of understanding injected directly into my consciousness. I saw the world from above, from orbit, from before the fire. I saw scientists, secret bases, a project named Threshold. And then I saw them. Not aliens, not invaders, not gods, witnesses. They had been here long before us. Watching, waiting. They didn't cause the eruption, the ash, the collapse. We did that. They just opened the door afterward. Threshold wasn't a weapon. It was a beacon. Somewhere we found a signal. Ancient, buried in the mantle. Not a transmission, not a language, a pulse. And someone, in some underground lab, answered it. The eruption wasn't natural. Not entirely. It was triggered, not by them, by us, by curiosity. That was the price. And now, the witnesses had returned to see what was left, to decide what was worth keeping. I fell to my knees. My chest heaved. My lungs refused to obey. And then, the sphere spoke. Not in words, in emotion. I felt its disappointment. Not rage. Not cruelty, disappointment. They had seen it before. On other worlds, civilizations digging too deep, tinkering with forces they barely understood. Believing survival was a right, not a privilege. And every time, collapse. Every time, fire. Only difference this time? We knew what we were doing, and we did it anyway. Suddenly, the floor opened beneath me. I was falling, back through the atmosphere, back through memory, and I landed, not in a bunker, but in a city, alive, breathing, people bustling, screens flashing, traffic humming, but it wasn't real. I knew that. It was a simulation, a reconstruction. This was how they saw us. Not as we were, but as we pretended to be. Beneath every building, war. Behind every smile, hunger. Inside every system, decay. And yet, we had beauty too. Moments of grace, of art, of rebellion. That's what they were studying now. Not how we fell, but if we deserved to rise again. Then I heard the voice again. The real one. Calm, inescapable, observation complete, judgment pending. And then, black. I woke up in a field. The sun was shining. Birdsong, grass swaying. A lie, because the sky above still held that impossible shape. And I knew I wasn't free. This was another test, another layer. And somewhere out there, beneath the soil, behind the mirrors, inside the sphere, a final decision was being made. Were we worth saving, or simply documenting? Part 4, The Archive. They say silence is peace. That's a lie. Real silence, the kind that comes after all the noise is gone, is terrifying. It's the sound of nothingness looking back at you. And right now, that's all I hear. I've been walking through this endless meadow for hours, or days, or maybe none of this is real. The sun never moves. The grass never wilts. There's no scent, no breeze, no insects, just perfection, synthetic. Eventually, I found the door. It wasn't hidden. It was standing in the middle of the field, a solid slab of obsidian set into nothing. No frame, no building, just a door. And behind it, a library, or something like one. A spiral of white corridors lined with objects. Memories, pieces of lives. Frozen, curated, labeled. This is where they keep the stories. Not books, not videos, but moments. Millions of them. I walked past a memory of a mother, holding her child as the first ash fell. A soldier sobbing in the corner of a ruined church. A child drawing a smiling sun on the wall of a shelter before the ceiling caved in. None of them saw me. They're not alive. They're echoes. I kept walking until I found mine. A corridor. Empty. My name etched into the wall. I touched it, and the world changed. I wasn't in the corridor anymore. I was back in my childhood home. My mother's perfume. My father's laughter. The sound of the TV humming late at night. The exact color of the wallpaper I hadn't thought about in decades. And then, silence again. Because they were here. Not the witnesses. The archivists. Tall. Pale. Not monsters. Not gods. Just curious. They looked at me not with pity or fear or contempt, but with fascination. I was a relic now, a subject of interest, an exhibit. One of them approached. His eyes shimmered like oil on water. And then, without speaking, he showed me the truth. We were never alone. Civilizations before us had risen and fallen, not because of invaders, but because of themselves. Some were preserved, some erased. A few were remembered. Most were simply filed away. We weren't the first. We wouldn't be the last. And then I saw the room. A vast hall with glowing capsules, each one a world. Frozen, preserved, some still flickering with light, others dark. Earth was there too. Tiny, blue, labeled. Homo sapiens/type 0.6/final cycle/status. In review. I fell to my knees. Not from grief, from understanding. We had tried to escape extinction by burrowing, by surviving, by resisting. But in the end, survival wasn't the test. Memory was. What we chose to remember. What we chose to forget. What we buried. and what we recorded. One of the archivists placed a hand on my shoulder. A final thought entered my mind. You are not being punished. You are being remembered. And then everything faded. When I woke up, I was back in the crater. Alone. Sky silent. No sphere. No structures. No bunker. Just me. And the world, broken, quiet, and waiting. I don't know if anyone else is out there. I don't know if I'm the last. But I know this. We are not forgotten. And maybe that's worse than being gone.